alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So for the past 9 years, I've been obsessed with one question. The question is, can our faith, can Islam boost our productivity at an individual level, at a community level, and beyond? And when we study the science of productivity or leadership, we always tend to look at what the current secular knowledge out there has in terms of productivity, knowledge, leadership, and expertise. But we rarely look back into our own faith, into the Quran and Sunnah, and ask ourselves, how does Islam, how does the values in our deen help boost our productivity and improve ourselves in a very concrete way? One of these ways is to understand the habits of successful people. All of us, if you want to become successful, we're always intrigued about successful people. I'm sure some of you might know that some CEOs wake up what time, what sort of food they eat, what time they sleep, how do they manage these multi-billion-dollar companies, what do they do that makes them successful? We're always intrigued by the habits of successful people and want to ask them, how do they get there? What were sort of habits they have in their lives that got them there? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the most successful person ever lived, and the person that we should emulate and who should be our role model, the person who should all be intrigued and know what were his habits, is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. That in this messenger, that he has given us an excellent pattern, an excellent follower, someone who can model our lives against. But what does that mean? What does it mean that I model my life against the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? About 5-6 years ago, I was looking at a website called Daily Routines. I'm obsessed with this idea of daily routines. And had the daily routines of Benjamin Franklin, daily routines of Thomas Edison, daily routine of Mahatma Gandhi, daily routine of all these people who are famous in history. But I did not see the daily routine of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then I started asking myself, well, where is it? Whenever we study the seerah, we always study in a very chronological order. He was born in this day, he went through Mecca, he migrated to Medina, and this in a seerah fashion from a historical perspective. But what does his typical day look like? What does that mean for our daily lives? And that's the question, inshallah, I'll try to answer tonight. Now, when I say daily routine of Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we need to be careful because the Rasul did not have a 9-to-5 job or had weekends or had a typical daily routine the way we understand it. But there are certain things he did on a daily basis that we can emulate, that we can look into and say, how can that teach us either some productivity skills we need to incorporate in our own lives or some leadership skills we can incorporate in our own lives. And like I said, if we can emulate that model, then inshallah ta'ala we'll reach the success, not because we're the most successful man ever lived, because of the barakah of following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the second thing I want to say is that most of these routines and habits I'm going to mention come from the Medinan period, not from the Meccan period, because during the Medinan period, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was more stable, he was not so persecuted, it was easy for him to basically follow and it's easy for him to run a normal life of what a day routine looks like and not feel the persecution. That's why I'll follow mostly the habits in his Medinan period. So the way I'm going to run this is I'm going to start from the moment he wakes up until the morning he sleeps. I'm going to talk about what time he slept, what time he ate, what time he woke up, what sort of things he used to do, and try to ask ourselves, can we incorporate that into our own lives? Can we make that practical enough to incorporate in our own lives? And also some productivity and leadership lessons that we want to incorporate from this life. So I want you to just imagine, we are now zooming into Medina, and just imagining seeing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sleeping in one of the Medina nights. And it's just before Fajr, and then Bilal radiallahu anhu calls the adhan. And Rasulullah ﷺ wakes up from his nap because he stayed up praying until the 6th of the night, and he takes a nap before Sahar, at Sahar time, before Fajr prayer. So he's waking up from his nap. He says, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana ilayhi nushur. He says the adhkar for waking up. He would get up and he would use the siwak. The first thing he would do is use the siwak. He used to be sometimes so close to his siwak, and we all know his attachment to siwak until the moment before he passed away, he was always close to his siwak. So he wakes up and he uses the siwak. And then if he needs wudu, he'll make wudu. If he needs the ghusl, he'll make ghusl. And he'll get up and he'll pray the 2 sunnah fajr prayer. After praying the 2 sunnah fajr prayer in his home, in his room, he would sometimes, if his wife is awake, he would sit and speak to her. Or if she's sleeping, he would just lie down next to her. Aisha radiallahu anha said that I've never woken up at Sahar except seeing Rasulullah sallam lying down next to me. So somebody would just converse with her if he's without his wife at times. Sometimes he would be awake. And he would wait inside his home until Bilal radiallahu anhu would come up to him and says, As-salah ya Rasulullah, prayer ya Rasulullah. Then he would get up, he would join the Musallin, he would lead the prayers, he would lead the Salat al-Fajr. After Fajr prayer, he would do the Adhkar of Fajr prayer. After Adhkar of Fajr prayer, he will do the Adhkar of the morning remembrances. And then he will sit and face the Sahaba. Now pause here. So far, is there anything complicated about his routine? Is it easy to follow so far? You wake up, you do the Adhkar, you use the siwak, you make wudu, you pray 2 rak'ah sunnah, you come to the masjid, you pray Fajr prayer, you do the Adhkar, and you sit and face the... There's nothing complicated. So far it's doable, right? All of us can emulate that. It's not complicated. It's one of the things that we realize from his seerah. It is not complicated. It's actually very, very easy to follow his habits and routines. So he would do that. He would get up, he would face the people, and at this time he would then ask about his companions. He would inquire about his companions. And sometimes he would ask, would say, Afikum marid a'udu? Is there somebody in here who is ill that I should follow, that I should visit? Is there someone amongst you that has a relative who's passed away, or someone passed away that I should go to his janazah? So he'd inquire about his Sahaba. So immediately we learn 2 leadership lessons. The first leadership lesson is caring about the people whom you are leading. He was always asking, where's so-and-so? Why don't you see him? And caring about the condition, is there anyone sick that I should visit? How many of us, if we're bosses or leaders or managers, truly care about those who follow? Those who follow us or who follow. Normally we have this contractual transaction relationship, so why not bring this leadership skills? We talk about leadership capacity, improving our leadership. The basic form of leadership is that you should care about those whom you follow, who follow you. So he used to inquire and ask them. The second question he would ask his companions would be, did anyone see a dream last night? Did anyone see a dream last night? And if someone did, he will explain the dream for them, or sometimes he would tell a dream that he had. Now how can we bring that into our own workplaces? I don't expect you to ask did you see a dream last night? But what if you tell them, did anyone have an idea from what happened last week? Ask them about fresh ideas. Did you guys have thought about the problem we had last week? I once worked with a well-known sort of a leader for a bank that runs 56 countries. And this man was a very humble person. He lived at one of the largest Islamic banks in the Muslim world. And he would sometimes do this. He would actually, before finishing an issue, he would say, you know what, let's sleep on it. Tomorrow we'll discuss it. And next day, the first thing in the morning, we'll say, did anyone have an idea about this idea? Did anyone have a new idea based on what we discussed yesterday? So just trying to get those ideas first before you as a leader say, oh, here's what we should do, trying to ask the people around you. And that's, again, from the leadership skills of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, he wakes up, so he faces the people, he asks those 2 questions, and he stays in that state, conversing with the Sahaba until sunrise. At sunrise, he would go inside and see all his family, greet all his wives, say Assalamu alaikum to all of them, and then he would ask, A'indakum shay, do you have anything to eat? And this again shows you the simplicity of the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he has to ask, is there anything to eat? And sometimes they say yes, and they give him dates or leban or something very light. Or sometimes it says, Ya Rasulullah, we have nothing in our house. There's nothing in our homes. And he said, Inni idan sa'im, I'm done fasting. Very, very easy, very, very fluid. One thing you'll notice about his habits is that he was very spontaneous. He was not very rigid or very strict. He was very relaxed, very easygoing. So he says, okay, I'm fasting then. Now, one of the productivity lessons, if you ever read productivity books, you learn a lot about waking up early, and starting your day early. And Rasulullah ﷺ has been teaching us throughout his life about waking up early. In fact, he even says, بُورِكَ لِأُمَّتِ فِي بُكُورِهَا, the early hours are blessed for my nation. Or another hadith, اللهم بارك لأمتي في بكورها, oh Allah, bless my ummah in its early hours. If you want to get a lot done, start your day early. You beat the rush hour traffic, you get there early. And that's from the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. He started his day early. So after sunrise, if he has breakfast, he eats his breakfast. If there's no breakfast, he'll go inside the masjid, and then he starts his official day. This is the time when the Sahaba knew that we will find Rasulullah in the masjid, the early time of duha, and they will sit down, and either sometimes he would ask them questions and get sort of lessons from him, or sometimes what he would do is that he would discuss some important matter dealing with the Muslims at the time. For example, all those discussions here about the battles, Uhud, Badr, those discussions, what to do about Medina, when the Khandaq come in, those normally happen in the early duha time, early hours. So again, that's a productivity lesson for us. Start your work day early. Get things done in the early hours. Then in his discussions, when he noticed about those early hours, he would not give a lecture. He would ask questions. Sometimes he would say, أَتَدْرُونَ مَنِ الْمُفْلِسِ? Do you know who is the one who is broke? And the Sahaba says the one who is broke is the one who has no money. And then Rasulullah explained, no, the one who's broke is the person who on the day of judgment will come with so much salah and siyam and zakah, but then he has hit this person, he has backbited this person, so all his deeds are taken away until he's broke. So his teaching style, and this is a good lesson for teachers, his teaching styles were always in a question format. I met once the advisor of one of the prime ministers of Malaysia. And he told me that one of the reasons, he was mentioning one particular prime minister, so one of the reasons of his success was that he never gave answers. He always asked questions. And that's a leadership skill. He never gives answers. He always asks questions and forces those who are under him to ask what am I doing to improve my leadership? So whenever you are tempted to give an answer, ask question. And this is from the hadith of Rasulullah. He used to ask questions. Sometimes he'll say, أخبروني بشجرة تشبه رجل المسلم. Tell me a tree that looks like the Muslim. And the Sahaba was not thinking about it. You could have said that the tree that follows a Muslim is a palm tree. He didn't say it. He just, tell me a tree that looks like that is like the Muslim. So it's like he always used to ask questions. Sometimes he would draw. You know the hadith where he kind of draw a box and he drew a line that went outside the box. And then he drew some sidelines in between them. And he said that this box is like our lifespan. And this line that goes outside the box is our hope. We always hope that we're going to live up beyond what already been written for us. And the lines in between are the tests and tribulations that come that kind of snatch away from us. So somebody would draw. Or you see different ways to engage the people around him, not just very sort of strict or lecture style. And this is from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So involved in discussion, he involved in shura. We know from the many discussions he had about regarding Badr or Uhud, he always used to ask his companions. And he would do what his companions would say. Sometimes, even if he against what he wanted. For the Battle of Uhud, when he would discuss with his companions, the young companions who did not go Badr, they wanted to go to Uhud. And Rasulullah was not feeling comfortable. But then he said, okay, that's what you got, let's all agree on this. He got up and he got ready for Uhud. And then the Sahaba felt bad that Rasulullah did not really want to go for Uhud. He said, you could stay, or we could stay. He said, no, I've put on my gear, we'll go. So, once as a team you decide, again, this is a leadership lesson. As a team, if you decide, even if it goes against your personal will, maybe you're the leader, but you feel like, I don't feel comfortable with the team, but it's a team's decision, and I'm going to follow through to the end. That's a leadership skill by itself. And that way you have people who follow you to the nth degree that, this person listens to us and actually takes our opinion. The story of a Sahabi who gave the idea for Badr. We all know the story. Again, taking feedback. How many leaders would say, actually, I don't know. Actually, you have a better idea. I'll follow that idea. And he's Rasulullah. He's someone who gets revelation. He's someone who gets revelation with anything. If you are a follower of Rasulullah, you'd say, you know what? He's the prophet. He knows what he's doing. He's getting revelation from Rasulullah. I don't need to intervene. But the Sahaba discussed with him. The Sahaba gave him shura. And Rasulullah took their shura, took them a shura. So this all happens those early hours in the morning. So again, like I said, productive lessons, that's starting early, nurturing those relationships with the people around you, and also the taking shura and discussion with people, not just lecturing people on what to do, how to go forward. This is also a time we used to greet people. People used to come over from other cities, and also this is also time. And this session used to be as long or as short as it needed to be. It wasn't a very, very strict time. It used to be as long or short as it needed to be. As soon as it ends, he says the kafarat majlis, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. And then he would get up and he would go back and meet his family, and go back to his family. And then after a while he would come out again. And now we're going now, so far we've been from sunrise until mid-morning. And then now from mid-morning till the we'll talk about it. He comes out, and then what he goes to the streets of Medina. And he either meets people, he either goes visits the sick, he either goes and fulfills the need of some people. If sometimes he hears some people had fights, he'll go and fix between them. Sometimes he gets invited for breakfast or some kind of like a brunch at someone's house, he'll invite him over. But the way you see him when he walks in Medina, you notice few things. Number one, there's a purposeful walk. It wasn't like, walking around just chilling and relaxing. It was a purposeful walk. He always had a purpose behind it. Secondly, he never walked in front of his Sahaba. He always walked either behind them or amongst them. And that teaches humility. Rasulullah never actually walked in front of his Sahaba. Somebody, if you're the leader, you never walk in front of them. You walk amongst them. And that shows humility. And so many times, the Sahaba sometimes would see this gathering, they're like, if some new guest came, like, which one of you is Rasulullah? They couldn't tell from his humility. And that's the leadership lesson. It's funny, if you read about, there's a Harvard Business Review article talks about level 5 leadership. And this article goes saying that the highest level of leadership is humility. It's not this, the charismatic, Jack Welch style, the guy who can, control. No, it's the humility is the highest level of leadership and which drives the most results. According to statistics, the highest share value, the highest job satisfaction, the highest form of, less turnover is in a company that has level 5 leadership, the idea of complete humility. So again, we have a leadership lesson here for us, for all to take. If you're leading a masjid, if you're leading an organization, if you're leading a non-profit, if you're leading a family, if you're leading in a team, doesn't matter how big or small you're leading, all of us, as Prophet taught us, each one of you is a shepherd. Each one is responsible for his own flock. So even if you're leading just a family, these are lessons for us to emulate. So he'd walk amongst them, he would do he would go around the city. If someone stops him, he would shake this person's hand and give him a complete and utter focus. That's another thing we don't do. Right? How many of us do this, right? We're on our phones while talking to somebody. Or if someone says, slow, hi, assalamu alaikum, just be like, almost like distracted, yet whatever, move on. But he would stop, he would turn to this person, he would hold his hand, and he will not let go until the person lets go. He will not be the first one to let go of the person's hand. This how much he gave complete and utter focus to this person. That total focus, that total immersion. And that's by itself a leadership skill. Sometimes you hear about successful people, you hear them, that when he shook hands with me, he looked me in the eye, and I felt like I was the most important person in front of him. That's when Rasulullah ﷺ, that is the Hayy Rasulullah ﷺ. You feel he's the most important person. When you stand there, you think that you are the most important person. And he's the Prophet, he's the Mufti, and he's a father, and he's a grandfather, and he's a husband, and he's the Rasulullah ﷺ, and he's the revelation, he has people wanting to kill him. He's got all many things on his mind. But he will give you complete and utter focus. That's another lesson we can take from his daily habits. And then, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one thing about him is also very fluid, very spontaneous. He would not be somebody who said, I'm sorry, I'm busy, 9 o'clock. You will never hear none of his companions, nor his wives, complain that he never gave me enough time, or he was too busy. You would never hear that from his companion. You'd always be like, that statement that, he was always too busy from us. You would never hear that complaint from none of his companions or his family, which shows you the level of productivity and leadership Rasulullah had. That he gave every single person the right, to the point where even a young servant girl would come and grab his hand and they would walk around. But imagine the Prophet is walking the city, he's got a lot of things to do. And the young servant could take his hand and come with me and he would go with her. And he would go with her until she's happy and then he would go on his own. That's fluidity. When you study the science of productivity, they tell you the highest form of productivity is to have a mind like water. A mind like water means what? It means that you're not so strict and rigid in your scheduling and how to get things done. You're more thinking, if something comes up, you can rearrange your schedule. You're very fluid. You're not strict about things. You're not stressed about it. And again, you'll see from the habits, he was not stressed. You don't see him stressed out, I have to go somewhere. No, I can't meet you, so I have to go. You don't hear that. Very, very easy, very, very simple, very, very powerful as well, but he gives every person their right. Sometimes we pass by a young man, and the young man is trying to slaughter sheep, and he's doing a terrible job. And then Rasulullah would get involved, like, that's not how you do it, it's how you do it. And then she would get on his knees and help him, like, this is how you do it properly. Imagine, so he's going around again, he's got so many things, but he would get and reach out to people, and reach out to the young, and say salam, and he gave that attention to his community, he gave that care, and gave that the focus on other people. Sometimes we pass by a person who in the morning was trying to cook a meal called burma, which is a type of, almost like a meat dish. And then we pass by him and says, "Atabit burmatak," meaning did your meat dish, is it good? Did it cook well? And we say yes, and then you join him. You just sit down, have 2-3 bites, and then you go. Again, that spontaneity, that focus. Again, let's take this to our workplaces. Again, this topic is mainly for professionals. Take it to workplaces where you pass by somebody who's working on something, and you later on says, "How did that go? How was that meeting? How was that presentation? How did that thing?" Just by asking, even your colleagues, asking that, immediately people see you as a leader. Like, wow, this person really remembered that I had a presentation this morning. Wow, this person really remembered that I had an exam. This person really remembered that I had this thing. And just asking that question, how did that go? And really genuinely caring what happened. Maybe helping that person. Again, that's a leadership lesson to take. That being caring, involving. People say that leadership is influence. Leadership is not just influencing people. Leadership is truly caring about the people whom you're leading. Truly, genuinely, sincerely caring about it. And Rasulullah was that man. He cared so much that he spent all night, worshipping, praying, also asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on his ummah and his followers. So also, again, like I said, he would, and that's so mid-morning, sometimes he'd go back home, or he'd go to the homes of some of his Sahaba, and he'd pray his duha prayer. That's like his mid-morning break. Sometimes go to the house of Fatima radiallahu anha, and meet his grandsons, Al-Hassan and Hussein. Sometimes he would go and, he'd go and, like I said, visit the sick, or go to someone who needs ill, or go to the poorest of the Muslims. Again, a leadership lesson. Taking care of the weakest of people among you. That security guard, maybe it doesn't get much, give him that attention. That, that the person who comes, cleans your office building, give him that due attention. He would give that attention to the person who might think everyone will ignore, and to the point where that lady who used to clean the masjid, you ask about, where is she? And also she passed away. Why didn't you tell me? Imagine he was asking about a lady who comes every day and she cleans the masjid. Why didn't you tell me? He was very upset that he wasn't told about it. So that's a leadership lesson. Caring about the smallest and the weakest, and people, someone whom no one don't care much about. What can you do to show that sort of that care to them? Sometimes even with children. He would go with children, and one day he saw a child, and he says, Sulaim had a child called Abu Umair. And he says, why is Abu Umair looks sad today? Imagine noticing the emotion of a child. And so, Rasulullah, his bird died, his little pet bird died. So Rasulullah thought to make him feel better, Ya Abu Umair, ma fa'al al-nughayr? What happened to your little bird? Again, taking time out to take care of even the smallest person. So these are all, again, just things that make us think. We all hear the stories, but now about translating them into our daily habits and translating to as either as productivity lessons or as leadership lessons that we can implement in a practical way in our daily life, in our workplaces, in our homes, in our families. This is sort of knowledge that we need now. We need to understand these sort of topics because we kind of disconnected our faith from our work or from our schools or from what we do everyday life. We hear the seerah every day, we hear the stories every day. But what does that mean? How does that practically move ahead? What does that, now that I know this, how can I implement it? These sort of questions we need to start asking ourselves and looking into, inshallah ta'ala. Sometimes, it's funny that he'll go to meet his companions. He would go visit his companions. Think about this. He will not call people to his office. He didn't say, come over to my office. He'll go to people's homes. He'll go to people's, in his house. And sometimes he'll say, Assalamu alaikum, first time, and they will not respond. Assalamu alaikum, second time, they will not respond. Assalamu alaikum, third time, then he would leave. Again, leadership lesson. You want to call a team member over for a meeting. He ignores your email, ignores your call. You make the first call, email, doesn't respond. Maybe give him some time. Maybe he needs some time. Maybe he doesn't want to speak at that time. Maybe he's going for something at that time. That's leadership lesson. Look at this. He's saying 3 times. He didn't say, why didn't you talk to me? I came to your house and I came all over. You didn't talk. Why didn't you have any ego problems and upset? No, okay. He was 3 times to say Assalamu alaikum. He would leave. Once there was a beautiful story of one of the Sahabas, who Sa'd ibn Ubadah. So I went to his house. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Sa'd said, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. Very like almost whispered to himself. And the second time, and the Prophet did not hear him. So he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Sa'd, wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. He whispered to himself. And the third time, so the third he didn't hear, so about to walk away. And then Sa'd walked out and said, Rasulullah, we heard you, we replied to you, but we wanted you to say salam upon us many, many times. And that was again from the sweetness of the relationship between him and his companion, sallallahu. He would come home, he would pray his duha prayer, sometimes pray 2 rak'ah, sometimes 4 rak'ah, sometimes 6 rak'ah, sometimes 8 rak'ah. And that time would be sometimes the sahabiyat, the female companions, would come to the home of Rasulullah, and they would sort of, ask questions related to sort of female issues, and he'd answer them. That's the time where also he was always in the khidmah of his family, and he used to serve his family at that time. And as Aisha said, he used to make his own clothes, he used to mend his clothes, mend his shoes, help in the family. Again, I'm the Prophet in the status. He was involved in his family. That's why he told خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. The best amongst you is the one who's best among his family. You see someone who's successful, right? Imagine someone, awesome guy, successful, top person. Ask how is his relation with his family. That's the true measure of success. Someone can easily put a facade outside the home, right? They can show that they're the most nicest person and amazing, but really the challenge is at home. If you can maintain that character at home, that's a challenge for you. That's how you show that you're that integrity, home and life integrity, work home integrity. You're the same person. And he said, he would come home, he would summon his family, and then he took a nap. And he took a nap before the Lord. So a few productivity tips here for you guys. Number one is to pray duha prayer. Mid-morning break, instead of having coffee, you can still have coffee or tea, but pray duha prayer. When at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you've worked for 2-3 hours, you start feeling a bit tired, it's a good break just to make wudu and pray 2 rak'ah duha prayer. From the sunnah, just again, trying to emulate his habits. And then after that, take a nap if you can. Again, very similar. Nowadays, again, you see all these big companies, Google, Apple, Facebook, allowing their employees to nap because they've shown study after study after study that naps improve alertness by 10 hours. A 20-minute nap, a 20-minute nap improves alertness between 5 to 10 hours. Think about it. Which employee, if you were the manager, which employee would you rather have? At 3 o'clock, someone who's sleeping and keep his eyes open? Or someone who's alert for another 10 hours? So that's why in a lot of companies now, even though it's slightly slow, and there's still a stigma on naps in the corporate world, but they allow employees to take a nap because it does improve alertness. We're not machines, we're just going to plug in and then plug out at 5 o'clock. We're human beings. We go through periods of intense sleep around that 12 at Dhuhr time. And Rasulullah is showing us, again, the perfect human being, that he also needs a nap, and he takes a nap. He wasn't a miracle person, Superman who can stay up all. He also took to take a nap. So why can't you, even 10 minutes, even just closing your eyes. Somebody, even the researchers say, even just closing your eyes, putting your head on the table, just for 10 minutes, that by itself can boost your productivity. You'll feel much more fresh, be much more ready for the afternoon. Just by taking the 10 minute, 20 minute nap. It's not that long. It's actually better than having a cup of coffee. Like if you want to compare a cup of coffee and a nap improves your alertness much, much more powerfully. It also improves your creativity and other studies we can share later, inshallah. So you need to take a nap. Now, it's almost Dhuhr time, and again, Bilal will call the adhan, and Rasulullah would again get up from his nap, and would come and lead the Dhuhr prayer. Now normally on Dhuhr prayer, there's something that is sort of a big thing that happened. Sometimes either when they saw a group of people who were in a very bad state, and they were not dressed properly, they were very hungry, so he would get up and do a khutbah. At that time, most of the Sahabas already also had naps. So this is another thing that we notice about Rasulullah. He would always check the energy of his people. He would give khutbahs or khatiras or reminders after Fajr and after Dhuhr. Mainly. He would rarely give them after Asr. He would almost never give after Maghrib or after Isha. Because he would know, he'll see when is the energy levels. Right? Okay, these guys now they're awake, this is the time to give them a lecture. This is the time he would know he would notice. Think about that again in your own workplaces. When you have a team, when you feel the team is tired or energetic, you give them a break. When you feel like, okay, you know what, maybe now we can all, let's meet up again. So it's being able to consciously be aware, instead of just lecturing people or trying to impose tasks on people until they don't feel like it. Be cognizant of, okay, when is my team ready to be receptive to this? That's a leadership skill by itself. So he would get up and he would simply give that khutbah on a time, or somebody would go on and he would, He would go in the city of Medina, go to Quba, for example. Sometimes he would just go to a garden in Medina, a small garden, Medina, and he would go and sit by himself in a well, taking time out for himself. That's a productivity, like that's a classic productivity skill there. If you're always connected, if you're always buzzed, people are coming after you, you need time for yourself. Even a few minutes can make a huge difference. So imagine, he was the most busiest man you can imagine. But he took time out to go sit in a well and just, sometimes sit in a well, somebody would join him, his close friends would come sit next to him. Somebody would go on Uhud and only two of his friends would come with him. And he would just have that solitude time alone. Again, just to recuperate, revive his energy. That's another productivity and leadership lesson. It's not always about being connected, right? We're 24 hours connected. He took time to disconnect. And that disconnection helped him function as a human being and to do more during the day, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then he would come, I said, after the whole prayer, he'd come home, and he would spend time again with his family. And by the way, when I say, you'll see many times him coming home, spending time with his family, many, many times. Like I said, if he did his khutbah, he did the khutbah on that time. And this will continue, it depends. If there's an errand, he'll go out. If there's no errand, he'll stay with his family. And until Asr. Asr time again, that will go off. And Asr used to, one of the Anas says, مَا كَانَ أَحَدٌ أَشَدَّ تَعَجُّلًا لِصَلَاةِ الْعَصْرِ مِنْ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. That the person who was most in a hurry to pray Salat Asr was Rasulullah. And actually, there's a very beautiful lesson for us here. Asr time comes at a time when it's like rush hour traffic. And in those days, Asr time was timing we have to wrap up, because when the sun sets, everything is dark. You can't see anything. So all of the Sahabas would Asr time was actually intense time. They were we have to get home quickly. We have to rush hour, and they have to get for dinner and prepare dinner for home. So the Asr time was actually almost the same as in our time. Where Asr time is like rush hour. Should I pray at home? Should I pray at work? Will I make it home? Will I not make it at work? That was Asr time. It was a time for him was a time it was actually quite almost like a fil haraj a little bit. That's why he prayed early, because he needs to give people the time to go back to the work, wrap up. Whether the shop had to close the shop, whether the farm had to close, make sure that everything's taken off in the farm. So give them the time to take care of the errand before Maghrib, because once the Maghrib comes, you can't see anything. It's dark in Medina. So that was another lesson from Rasulullah in telling with the Asr. That's why Allah says, "Quran حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى." He emphasized the middle prayer, because that's the prayer that comes in that time when you want to just go home quickly, go big rush hour traffic. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran as a way to make sure you don't sort of forsake that salah. Like I said, then after that, he'd pray Asr. And after Asr, most days, he would spend time with his family. Most days. Again, you hear family again. Most days. And this is sometimes, again, according to some of the companions, this is sometimes where he would almost have like a halaqah with his family. He would ask them questions, or they would ask him questions. This is sometimes, if the time to Asr and Maghrib is long, he would either go to each one of his wives, and then they would meet at one of the homes, whoever's turn it is for her to spend the night with Rasulullah. They go to her house. Sometimes, because if the Asr and Maghrib is too short, because of the time, the season of the year, they would all go to one of the houses of Zawjat Rasulullah, and they'll spend the time, again, asking questions, talking about some of the things that happened in the early days. Sometimes, like Aisha radiallahu anha says, when Rasulullah says, "Man husiba yawm al-qiyamah udhib," that whoever is taken to account in their judgment, he will be punished. So Aisha would say, hold on, but didn't Allah says, فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا? She used to ask, used to almost like debate, didn't Allah say this? And also we will explain, لَيْسَ ذَلِكَ الْحِسَابِ إِنَّمَا ذَلِكَ الْعَرْض مَنْ نُوقِشَ الْحِسَابِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ عُذِّبْ. That's not hisab. All of us will go through some kind of our deeds will be shown to Allah, but one who's being discussed about every single deed, that's part of punishment. So they would ask, and they would hold on, did Allah say this? And they would almost have that back and forward with Rasulullah, and just shows you that level of knowledge that was inside those homes. And that's why one of the most amazing hadith and we hear are from the Zawjat Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sometimes after Asr, sometimes one of his companions would say, inviting something that some entertainment sometimes, where sometimes the Ethiopian, almost like acrobats came, and he would sometimes sit and they would watch again. So Asr almost like relaxed time for him to decompose. Sometimes one of the companions would come over to our house where we have a really large animal, we want to slaughter, we want you to honor us. He would accept the invitation. So he was there. He was there in these moments. But also not only moments of happiness, but even moments of sadness. Sometimes if a Sahaba is sick, he would go and be there in their last moments. Again, that emotional engagement with those whom he leads. He wasn't like, Allah yarhamu, no, he was there emotionally, he would cry, he would go to the graves, he would cry, and he was emotionally engaged with those who was following. He was really emotionally engaged with them. And that's, again, just showing you that capacity he had as a leader. Something that it is tough to follow, but it shows us why he is the greatest leader of all time. And whenever sometimes, when you are with somebody at their moment of weakness, they will always be loyal to you. And Rasulullah was always there when Sahabas need the most. He was there. He was there when they're weak, when they're about to die, in the moments of weakness, he's there. And that's why the Sahaba were ready to sacrifice. We also about the Sahabas who sacrificed their lives for him. One of the reasons, not only because they knew that he was Rasulullah, but also because the love they had for him. They had so much love for him. And again, think about people, whom you lead. Do they have as much, this famous thing, will you take a bullet for me? Right? That's the thing, will you take a bullet for me? Like, if I were to lead this, will you really sacrifice yourself for me? How many people are in that leadership capacity? People will say, I will. Because we admire you, we love what you stand for, we love your cause, and we'll be there, we'll support you all the way. We'll do our best to support you. That leadership capacity, that's what we need to learn from Hadi Rasulullah. Then Maghrib time would come. Maghrib prayer would come, he would pray Maghrib, he would pray to Sunnah before Maghrib, then he would pray Maghrib, pray to Sunnah after. And again, no talk after Maghrib. Why? Because people go back, have dinner. That's dinner time for them. So we'll go back, everyone's rushing home to have dinner, so again, would not make them stay behind or make things difficult for them. He would let everyone go home and have dinner with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes he would go home and there's nothing to eat. Literally, there's nothing to eat. And you just, continue fasting. Or sometimes some neighbors send some food and he will eat from that. Or someone invites him and he will go to the invitation. Isha time would come, and normally he would delay Isha, depending on, if people are gathered, he would pray, if people didn't gather, he would delay it. Sometimes he would delay so much that even the people started sleeping. They feel like almost fall asleep. But he said, this is the time for Isha, but if I didn't want to, put pressure on you, on my ummah, I would have made this late, but I don't want to make it difficult for my ummah. And he would pray Isha, and after Isha, that's when he, again, ready to talk. He would either, he would go out and spend quality time with Abu Bakr and Umar, maybe discussing some matters to do with the Muslims, some strategizing and planning. But normally after Isha, that's when he goes and he sleeps. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would sleep until midnight. So think about it, from Isha, now I think Isha in Medina is roughly between around 8 o'clock up to 9 o'clock maximum. And think about midnight. Now midnight does not mean 12 o'clock. Midnight is take sunset until dawn, count number of hours, divide by 2. And that's the midnight. So it's sleep from Isha to midnight. Now I did the sort of calculation on this. It's about 4 hours. It's about 4 hours and a half. And then he would get up. And that's when he starts his tahajjud time. And he would get up, and Aisha used to say that, once he gets up, he, almost like charges himself. He hadda min al-layl kabbar 10. So he says Allahu Akbar 10 times. And then Muhammad 10. He said Alhamdulillah 10 times. And says Subhanallah bihamdi 10 times. And then Subhanallah Quddus 10 times. Astaghfirullah 10 times. And said La ilaha illallah 10 times. And he almost like charging himself to get ready for tahajjud. And then he would pray. And when you see him in his prayers, you see that this is his time. This is where he's really enjoying it. He's reading slowly, he's taking his time, he's reaching out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the time you see it his most, he's really, really enjoying himself and really finding enjoying the quality of his salah. He would spend, every verse, he'll stop at it. If it's of Jannah, he'll ask for Jannah. If it's of hellfire, he'll ask Allah for forgiveness from hellfire. He'd read it very, very calm and slowly. And then he'll continue praying until the last sixth of the night. Again, take the whole night, divide by 6 parts. The last 6, which equates about an hour and a half or 2 hours. The last 6 of the night. He would then lie down, he would wake up his wife, he would pray with her, and then he would go back to sleep and take that nap before sahar. And that's from his night routine. Sometimes he would go out to Baqiyah. Especially towards the end of his life, he went out to Baqiyah, and he would make dua for Ahl Baqiyah. Talk about leadership. until the companions were passed away, he will still be loyal to them. He will still find them, go to their graves and make dua for them. What sort of a leader he was, that he cared so much about his companions. Forget his living companions. Even those who passed away, he would go out and make dua for them in the middle of the night. Again, it shows you that amazing leadership capacity, and that loyalty to even his dead followers. He would have that loyalty to the last minute. That is just leadership beyond our imagination. We don't hear examples of leadership like this today. But these are examples we should learn from and emulate and practically find in our daily lives. So this is, again, so then he takes a snap before Fajr and his day starts again. So that is in a nutshell the daily habit, daily routine of Rasulullah ﷺ. And inshallah, I'm going to wrap up here because of the Salah. One of the key things we learn from him is that number one, his day revolved around the Salah. You hear Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, Tahajjud, is Duha. His day revolved, his Salah was like the keystone moments in his day that always is like, is it after Salah, before Salah, after Salah, before Salah. His day revolved on Salah. And you as professionals in the professional spheres, plan your calendars around Salah time. Say after Fajr, before Dhuhr, before Duha, after Duha. Just in even habits. Try not to book meetings at the time of Salah, for example. Try not to book calls at the time of Salah. Try to plan your life around the Salah. And make Salah the center of your day. And plan everything around it. Just by doing that, you're seeking the barakah of following the sunnah of Rasulullah. Second, we're always in a constant state of dhikr. That's why we hear a dua for going outside, a dua for coming inside the home, a dua for entering the bathroom, a dua for leaving the bathroom, a dua for taking sleeping, for waking up. He had a dua for every single moment. It was a constant state of dua. So we need to learn this adhkar that Rasulullah is teaching us to take. Thirdly, he fulfilled every right, whether it's his wives, whether his daughters, whether his son, whether his grandsons, whether his companions, whether the sick, whether the one who's passing away, whether the one who invites him. He fulfilled every right. Like I said, no one complained that, oh Rasulullah, you're busy. Oh Rasulullah, you never give me time. No person had any claim or right upon him because he fulfilled every right. So think about the people around you and the rights they have upon you. Another thing is that he was not stressed. You don't feel like this, oh my God, I have to rush, or I have to go home, he was not stressed. Now, of course, we attribute this, different lifestyle, simpler lifestyle, but still, there's something about his day was not stressed. It was something we need to take into our own lives. His simplicity. Like I said, someone invites him to, okay, sit down. Not complicated, no, you have to let me know 2 hours in advance, why didn't you tell me? Someone invites him for dinner, he'll sit down and eat with him. Someone tells him a little girl comes hold hand, he'll go with her. Very spontaneous, very simple. He had this, strong family relationships. Like I said, after Fajr, he'll go back to his family. Abu Hatam, go back to his family. After Dhuhr, go back to his family. After Asr, go back to his family. After Maghrib, go back to his family. He was always very close relationship with his family. And this is one thing that surprised me just by studying him, is how much time he spent with his family. And time, you don't expect this from a man who's very busy, an enormous amount of time, that family. Another thing, he was also very happy. Even though he lost 3 sons, he lost some of his daughters, he lost companions, his uncle. If one of us faced just one of these traumas, we would be depressed for a long time. But he faced all these difficulties, but in his daily life, he was very present. He was very happy. He didn't carry if his sadness, it was more concern for the future of the ummah and for the akhirah. But he was very happy, content, genuinely happy of Rasulullah. And this is again a key reflection from his daily habit. So these are some reflections on the productivity and some leadership of Rasulullah. Like I said, this is sort of knowledge, a technical skill we need to understand now. We go out and study productivity and leadership from everyone around us. Why don't we go back to our sources and study how Rasulullah lived his life and lead that productive lifestyle and that really achieve success that is beyond people's imagination? Why can't we go back and study from? Inshallah, I'm inviting everyone here. We have a workshop, one-day workshop, doing just that. Tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be at the Westin DFW Airport Hotel. A one-day workshop looking into this idea of productivity and leadership from a faith perspective. On how does our faith help us boost our productivity. Inshallah ta'ala, jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.